Welcome to my channel, Paging Dr. Robinson, where I'm going to be talking about everything that has to do with grad school, vlogs made through grad school, how I matriculate, the difficulties, the success, all that and above, and also traveling that I'm going to be doing. But today, interview tips. I'm going to give you guys tips on how to get into your graduate program. I don't know, I have brain fart for some reason. Whether that is a master's, whether that is a PhD, because guess what? Your boy already has a master's and I'm in a PhD program right now. I got all the juice. So I'm going to give you guys tips on how I got in and things that I feel like I've seen other people do that I feel like was very beneficial. I'm gonna give you all tips on how to be successful during these interviews. Let's get it. Now, I am in a counseling psych PhD program right now, very closely related to clinical psych. The only difference is clinical psych has more of a medical model more. So counseling psych is more social justice. So basically like what's going on in the area, and we're more like personal. Okay, so in case y'all wanna know like, oh, he's talking about a PhD, what are you doing? I told you. I got my master's in clinical rehabilitation counseling. So basically that is counseling with specialty and working with individuals with disabilities and some little job analysis type thing. I can do vocational and stuff like that. So that's where my background is in. But I'll get into all that, my interest and all that, probably in a later video, of course. Interview tips, specifically tips. One thing that I think is very, very important, give yourself a round of applause. You made it through the first step. You made it through the first step. This is the hardest step you will ever have, is once you get that email that says, oh, we want to interview you. That is a feat in itself. Applaud yourself. Know that you did something very good. Because not everybody get it. Let's get the statistics. Let's be real about it. Okay. Out of the 200 people that applied to that program, they're only going to interview 18. And I know 18, I'm giving you number 18 because the schools that I've applied and had interviews with, it was only like 18 of us that were interviewing. So 18 out of 150, even if, let's say you don't get in, but you're gonna get in. Let's say you don't get in. You were the top 18 out of 150 people. You did that. 2, the main one, we'll preface this one, be yourself. Do not waver from who you are. The person that you put on that paper when you wrote that statement is the person that they expect to show up during that interview. And that person that you wrote on your paper should be, and the person in that CV is the person that should be you. It should be who you are authentically. So be yourself. Be your genuine, professional, be your professional, but genuine, authentic self. Don't change. Don't go in there, because I've seen it. I've seen it. People go in there and then they be like, this is how a psychologist is supposed to act like. This is how a counselor is supposed to act. And they go in there and they do all that extra stuff. And it's like, no. They can see through it. And then 2, you also are being evaluated by the students in that program. And they've seen things as well, and so have the professors. Professors, they know what to look for. So if they see that you're putting on an act, I'm like, oh, well, you know, they're gonna see it and they're gonna bypass it. That's just what it is. So be yourself. Know your research. Know what your research that you are interested in. Know the current research that's going on, past research. Sorry y'all, maybe there's somebody yelling and stuff. Hopefully I can't hear that. But anyways, know your research. And when I say know your research, I'm talking about if you, on your CV, you have research that you did, they're going to see that you have research experience. And then they're going to specifically ask you questions about that research. If you cannot give them a clear and concise picture of what your research was, what was the point of you putting it on you? What was the point of you putting on that CV? There was no point. So you need to know your research. You need to know the research past, the research current and where you see you could possibly go with it in the future. So for instance, I'm gonna say what the research that I did in, which was colorism and effects in African-American women going to HBCUs. My current and what I want to do going forward is not in African-American women or has anything to do with colorism, but they asked me about my research because they saw it was on there. So I had to make sure I let them know, boom, this is what I found out, that colorism varies beyond regions. Colorism varies beyond regions. HBCUs have a positive impact on women's self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was able to cite, oh, you wanna know about research? I know it is on research. I'm not babbling, I'm not trying to remember, oh, that was so long ago. No, you put it on your CV now, you need to know how to talk about it now. That's just what it is. Also, when it comes to research, know who you are being interviewed by. There is nothing worse than you go up in there and they say, okay, well, you're being interviewed. We pick you for being interviewed. And then you get up there and that professor is sitting there saying, what interests you in working with me? And you're talking about, you just seem cool. They don't care whether or not they seem cool. They don't care if they the only psychologist in the field right now in your area that works on domestic violence. No. What is it specifically that they have done that drew you to them? That is what you need to know. You need to know research as far as what you've done, what you want to do, and you need to know research as far as what they've done and what they want to do. Because at the end of the day, this interview process is trying to mesh you two together. And if you cannot find a way to mesh you two together, then there's nothing that, there's no point. I mean, you just missed out on that. And there was no point in you applying to them. That's how they're going to look at it. They're going to look at the next person who knows what it is that they're talking about. And so nowadays, since we are in this post-pandemic era where programs have now decided like, okay, let's be more economical. Let's make sure we can reach more people. And we want to make sure people don't have to get on a plane to come see us. A lot of schools have now transitioned now to doing online interviews. They have decided to do online interviews. And I mean, some people could say, it's a positive and a negative, but we only gonna talk about the positive because you got this interview and you about to go in there. And so we need to talk about the positives with this. If you get an online interview, it makes it much more easier for you. You are in your own area. You can put things around you that make you feel good, that can ground you to where you're not overwhelmed. Because y'all, when I tell you, these interviews aren't just job interviews. These interviews aren't just, it's an hour. These interviews are 6 to 8 hours long. Let that sink in. 6 to 8 hours long, y'all. This is a job to get the job. So you need to have your area able to accommodate you being there for 6 to 8 hours. Something that can ground you. And then on top of that, what I did was, since it was virtual, I put sticky notes. I put professors that I was being interviewed by. I wrote down what I want to talk about with this professor. I want to hit these points, because they talk about this, and third. I even put articles that they wrote. The Journal of Black Psychology, you spoke about this. And they're like, oh, okay, well, you know your stuff. And you know your stuff because you just doing those little reminders. But I will literally do that. But make sure you're putting it in a strategic place. Don't put it right there and now you oh yeah, no. You need to put it in a strategic spot because you're being interviewed and they want to see you. So you need to put it where you can read it, but your eyes are still fixated on them and they don't see you wavering and looking to the side. Utilize the fact that you are at home taking these interviews, y'all. Don't let that slip by. That makes the process way more easier. Because if you was in person, which I've done in person for master's program, there's no notes that you can look at. And then on top of that, the professor is right there in your face. right there in your face, looking at everything that you're sitting there doing, and you cannot waver. Moving on, let's say the first interview you get, and you do the interview, and you're like, dang, I bombed. Now you're just like doubting yourself the whole time and all that type of stuff. Don't do that. Do not do that. Because if you go into that next interview defeated because you feel like I messed up and I missed the opportunity with them, you're going to step on yourself and you're going to mess up on the next one. And we cannot have that. We will not stand for that. You're going to have to go into every interview like it's a new interview. Only take the positives from each interview and utilize it. Now, yeah, you're going to mess up. You're going to mess up everywhere. I feel like I messed up on the school that I even got into. But at the end of the day, you pick it up. I messed up. Move on. Don't let them see it. And then I compensate it by being great at this. That's what you need to do. I know, for instance, there was one school that I had applied to. And I was like, I got in. And it was because of how the process was going. I was like, I got in. Like, look how educated I am. Look how knowledgeable I am. I'm connected to the professors, etc. And they had a nerve, the gall, to put me on the wait list. I was so defeated. And I had other interviews lined up, but I was so defeated because I really wanted to get into that school because I was like, oh yeah, they like me and all that type of stuff. And I felt like I really did good. And it wasn't until I had to be told that just because you didn't get in or they didn't pick you doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It could mean the fact that what I need as a student, they cannot give me. They may not have the resources. For instance, I want to work with African American men. They may have known that in their area, they didn't really have that pull to give me. Or they didn't have the professors that were as educated in what it is that I wanted to do that could help me. And they knew that. So they was like, okay, we'll put people in these spots that we know that what we can do it right now. And I had to take a step back and I had to be told, like, doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And so with hearing that, I went to the next interview and I was just like, right, like, that's fine. Like, I'm still good. I got it. Look at me now. I got in. Moving on, another interview tip, mock interview. Mock interviews. What you need to do is find somebody, either you have a mentor, professor that is willing to give their time, to dedicate their time, and even have a friend that's in the field. And I say in the field because they'll necessarily already know the type of questions and how the questions are going to be worded, stuff like that. I slept on mock interviews at the beginning. I was like, I don't need to do no mock interview. And my mentor, she who's a professor, she's a clinical psychologist, was like, no, okay, well, let's just do it. Let's just do an interview and we'll see. She got on that, we got on that Zoom, and she ate me up. And I was like, wow, like I really thought I knew what it was I was talking about. And she was giving me the legit questions that I would be asked. And on top of that, it helped build my confidence. When you do these mock interviews, it helps you get into the mode of interviewing. It helps you get into that mode of, oh, I have to talk about myself. You have to brag about yourself. I'm not good at bragging about myself. Even though I feel like I do a lot of things, I feel like I'm a great person. Bragging about yourself is something different. So that could be like another tip. But in these mock interviews, it teaches you that. It gives you that whole guideline of how to talk about yourself, how to talk about interviews. I mean, not how to interviews, how to talk about research. And then on top of that, the mock interview gets you to the mode of talking like a professional, talking like that practitioner. Because if you've been out of school for a couple of years or like a year, you may lose some of that terminology. So a mock interview will help you get back in the mode. The last interview tip that I would give, know yourself. And when I say know yourself, and I'm saying that because during these interviews, you will be amongst a group of people. You will be amongst a group of people. And this person is going to have what you don't have. This person is going to have what you don't have. This person is going to have higher accolades. This person is going to be this person. This person is going to know this person already. Everyone around you is already going to have one up on you in a good way. And you're going to have a one up on that person. They're going to look at you. They're going to assess you the same way. But if I'm listening to person A, send their answer the question, because there's going to be a group question, a portion, and they're answering a question, and they're just so knowledgeable, I can easily be intimidated. And then my personality, my demeanor, the way that I go about the thing is just going to go down. And I'm just like second guessing myself. And when you go in there, you're going to go in there already knowing yourself. You know your strengths, you know your weakness. And remember, when they ask you what your weakness is not really a weakness. Your weakness is something that you already overcame. Make sure your weakness is something that you have already overcome. And make sure you tell them the steps that you already came to overcome. You need to know what your research is. You need to know why you chose this school. You need to know why they should pick you. You need to know why you are different. This whole room is full of people that want this spot. You're not competing with them. You're competing with yourself. Are you going to waver? Are you going to back down? Are you going to get scared? Now you're going to go in there, everybody going to keep telling you like, oh, you're not competing with the next person, you're not competing with the next person. And no, you're not competing with them, but at the end of the day, you're competing with them. Let's be real. You're competing with them because out of all these 18 people that are applying, out of the 18 people that got these interviews, they're only picking 2 to 5. So you have to know yourself in the way you market yourself. You need to get into the art of bragging about yourself. Yeah, I developed treatment plans, I did da-da-da. You need to be able to tell them what it is that you did. And then you got it. So I don't want this video to be like extra long. I'm gonna do a part 2 interview tips, and I'm gonna do interview questions, and I'm gonna show you how to like answer some of them. I'm gonna throw in some that I know other people had questions they had. I'm gonna throw in some questions that I had, and hopefully it'll benefit you. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe. If there's something that you want to know, like there's something outside this video that I didn't speak about that you would like to know about me as far as anything else, please leave a comment. You can leave a comment, say like, oh yeah, please make a video about this. I'll put my email up there and you can like email me, ask any questions. I'm big on mentorship. So if I can help anybody get to what they need to get, I am always there. Yeah, until then, I guess I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.